everybody, welcome to the newest episode of Falling Upwards. It's me, your primary host, M.A. Kwan. Welcome to the podcast about failure, because failure is a noun, and I'm sure you've heard it very often if you have parents that have generational trauma, so it's good that we're all acquainted with it. I am going to introduce my wonderful host, the photographer. We're not going to do lots of alliteration like last time, because that was a disaster. It is...
That was really good, though.
I mean, thank you, Maddie. It is Maddie Armstrong. Hello, Maddie. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm good. I'm not knackered this time because I've not been at work today like I was last time.
See, that's fantastic because you're not knackered and I'm knackered. So it will always be a party, as you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, for our lovely listeners, this episode, we have a wonderful guest with us. We know, we love our guests. And to kick off our guest run, we have the fashion writer, wrestling broadcaster, media maven extraordinaire. See, I'm back with the alliteration. We've always got to try it. Miss Sonal Lad, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm actually honoured to be like the first of the guests on here. And when you say like you were listing fashion, wrestling, media, I'm like, if someone read that, they would be really confused about like everything that I do.
It's cool though.
Yeah, it shows how eclectic your tastes are.
It's very random. Sometimes I have to try and remember what I'm doing or what I'm writing or talking about, because then I just get very confused. I'm like, and then when they collide, like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, but you're an interesting individual. You've got all these different things.
It's got too much things.
No, it's cool.
My mum likes to joke that it's because I have an obsessive personality. I have done since I was young. So if I get into something, I can't half-ass it.
Oh, me too.
I put everything into it.
I love that though.
But I feel like they're good interests to get into though. Like it's better that than like, I don't know, jumping off things.
Like parkour.
Yeah, like you put your all into it.
I don't know where parkour came from.
Is that a potential future interest?
Oh God, no, I'm the least athletic person. Like, it's a random thing, but I actually did wrestling training for like a month, 2 months. And I quickly gave it up because I knew I wasn't athletic. I've never been athletic. But I thought, oh, maybe it'll work because I have a passion for it. Turns out if you're not athletic, you shouldn't try anything. If you're not athletic normally, trying something like wrestling, it's not just going to miraculously get cured because you like the sport.
Well, as always, dear listeners, you know we like to kick off with a little opening segment that we call Mad News, where Maddie brings her favourite news, her favourite anecdotes from the week for us. Maddie, how are you kicking off Mad News this week?
So I've given you an option, right? I can either nerd about stereograms today. Do you know what stereograms?
Nope.
Stereograms?
Nope.
No? Or I can tell, because we already talked about the story of Kermit the Frog, didn't we?
Yes.
I could retell the story of the time I shot the Fimbles in concert.
I'm going to leave it to our guests to decide. So now, which bit would you like for Mad News this week?
Can I be honest? As someone who dabbled in the Fimbles when they were younger, I'm very intrigued about the Fimbles thing.
It's not actually the Fimbles, unfortunately.
Well, I'm still going to go with it because you mentioned Fimbles, and now I've got the Fimbles theme tune in my head, so I'm going to stick with that.
Have we all watched the Fimbles?
I have no idea what you're both talking about.
Have you not?
No. I'm imagining like sewing thimbles, just like wandering around, but I assume that's wrong.
It's a kids' TV show.
It was on CBBS.
I know Pokemon. Okay, wait, what are the thimbles? What are the thimbles?
Fimbles with a fur.
The Fimbles?
Oh my God,
they're like stripy. They're really cute.
I thought you meant thimbles, like sewing thimbles, and I thought you
No,
came up with
the
a show about
Fimbles.
sewing thimbles. Oh my God.
No.
That would be an interesting story.
I'm so glad Sonal knows what I'm talking about.
Okay, do you want to tell your story, Maddie?
About shooting the Fimbles?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've heard this story a million times, Emmy.
Okay.
So this is more for Sonal's entertainment today. Very big concert. And like 5 minutes before it's meant to start, we're all like shoved into the photo pit as usual, which usually we'd be there like half an hour before. So already the stress is pretty high because we're like, trying to get ourselves together, but it's fine. We're there. So we're all setting up. It's like a minute about to start now. And then suddenly a staff member comes in and tells us, guys, you've got to move to the back. So it was a huge venue. So a minute before it's meant to start, and we're told we have to go to like the soundboards.
Also, if dear people that actually own copyright to the Fimbles show, we're not talking about the actual Fimbles. Do not sue us. This is not
through them.
No,
this is not slander. Because I remember you joined me next to me at the seat, and you were like frazzled, very frazzled.
But it was the Fimbles, so it's a Fimbles.
But also not. We don't want to get sued here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but who are we more likely going to get sued by, the Fimbles or the real one?
We might have to cut some parts out of this. Okay, where did I get up to? Oh yeah, 1 minute before. So we're all meant to move there, but I don't know how much you know about lenses, but with like a standard lens that we use, when they're meant to be like right near you or a few meters away from you, isn't going to work when they're like many feet or meters away from you, and I just so happened to be like the only person that brought a massive zoom lens with me, just by chance. But that was backstage. So I decided in the heat of the stress of it all, because I mean, you know what I'm like. If I can, I will. And I thought, I don't want to have like world's crappiest photos on this huge show of the Fimbles. This is very important to me. So I sprint backstage like my life depends on it. And then I swap out my lenses. I'm like frantically talking to the staff members like, you'll protect my lens, won't you? Because I just left it on the floor. I couldn't put the lens cap back on this lens because I was in such a hurry. I was dying. I'm like starting to hear music, okay? But I see these colorful dots, these colorful lights in the distance, and I'm like, that's it. That's got to be the soundboards. So I run over there. I'm like yelling at them to let me in. They let me in, and it starts, and I get like the best photos of the bunch. Not even trying to brag here, but
they were great photos.
Thank you. I was briefly looking at them before, just because I happened to stumble across them on my computer. I was like, I'm sad that I can't use these pictures of the Fimbles. But you know what, Sonal? It was still like one of, if not the best concert I've ever been to, because of how good the Fimbles were. So, and Emma was right there next to me, so she knows.
But Maddie, you can use this. You can use them for your own personal, like if you have a portfolio or stuff, can't you?
No, I still can't post them anywhere that could be public. They've been reduced to computer backgrounds.
Just for you?
Yeah, personal use.
Goddamn Fimbles! Emmy, you know what this reminds me of?
What?
When we were at a festival, where we first met. Yeah, and we spent ages and we were recording everything just for me to get out and realise that all of the audio was basically, you couldn't hear anything. And my manager went, it sounds great, I can't understand it, we're just going to have to scrap it.
Oh no. That's sad. Do you have like any remaining good memories of the day though?
Oh no, it was the best. It was like the best weekend ever. Like you said with the Fimbles, it was like amazing, but I'm just sad that like the world didn't get to see or like read. I mean, they did through Emmy, but obviously, yeah, not through me.
Well, 2 stories for the price of 1 at this week's Mad News. So woo! Moving on to our main section, obviously we like to take a look at failure and what failure means to everybody. So we're going to ask Sonal the first question, the first $1 million question. What does failure mean to you?
Failure, I guess it's 2 different things. Failure is something that obviously like can be rectified, because the whole thing is if you fail at once, try again. But also I think failure is whether it works the best. Failure is a learning curve. It's a time to learn, because I feel like when a failure happens at the time, it's the worst thing in the world. You want to cry, you want to throw something. But when you look back at it in hindsight, you're actually like, right, I'm going to take something away from it.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing, I guess. Cause, I mean, I've not met anyone who hasn't failed. And I'm going to say there are some times where I failed at things and like I'm still bitter. But I at least look back on it and go, I'm glad that I tried it and failed, then not tried it, and then just didn't have anything to come out of it.
Do you think that failure is valuable only when stuff comes out of it? Can failure be valuable even if you just fail and that's it?
Yeah, I think so, because you can look back at it, and even if you don't learn from it, you can still look back and go, well, I did it. Or whatever happened, it happened for a reason. Do you know what I mean? As long as, obviously, it's not anything serious or like damaging or dangerous, everything can always be like a memory. And whether this is, I always go off topic.
We love people going off topic. It's all good.
So 17's Going 17, they had a recent thing where they were like debating stuff, and one of them was like, is a good memory even if it's like from the past? And I think that's a bit like failure, because like at the time you're never going to see a failure as anything positive. But I think no matter whether you learn or whether you don't, you always look back at it, and the fact that, weird to say, but the fact that you're alive, I guess that means that it can't have been that bad, and that at least you can look back at it and go, okay, that happened. Either you learn from it or you just move on.
Do you have a favourite failure?
So I mentioned it's when I did that 1 month of wrestling, or 2 months, because I'm 5'1". I'm small. I am not very strong, and the fact that I did it, even though I didn't stick at it, it was failed dramatically. But I at least look back at it and go, you know what? I tried it. I did something that 90% of the population probably wouldn't even look at. So yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I've failed many times. I've probably lost track. It's just because we spoke about this one earlier.
It's not even a failure, it's cool. That's a cool thing that you tried to do. So I wouldn't even consider that a failure. I would think that's a cool thing. That's a cool Sonal venture.
I mean, it was a great feeling hoisting a 5'11" man over my shoulder and carrying him.
Of course it would have been. That's awesome.
You can't call that a failure if you did that. That's so cool.
That's an achievement.
He was very gangly. Okay, he was very like slim. He was like a pole. He was like a pole, like really skinny.
A stick man.
Yeah. Like I was at first really worried, and like the guy who's doing it, he's like, just trust it. And I was like, I can't do this. But it's a very common thing, like especially in Japan, there are wrestlers who are like 4'11", female wrestlers, and they are carrying men who are like twice their size and also like twice their weight.
Wow.
As somebody who's covered wrestling for such a long time, and I think I know you're not as much of a sports head as Sonal and I are, Maddie, but I think even somebody with vague knowledge wouldn't say that, say, wrestling is something that is stereotyped as a woman's sport, whether that's through spectators or through pundits or however it's covered. What's it like being a woman in wrestling, Sonal?
Funny thing is, it's much more women. There are much more women nowadays, whether it's content creators or fans. Obviously, never as much as men. But if you look in Japan, there is so many female. So I was watching a show on Sunday, and then I watched one yesterday. There were so many women in the crowd. There's some male shows have women-only events, women-only seating. There are multiple women-only promotions. So I feel like wrestling is kind of a bad example, because while it is still stereotypically male, and as people who are reporters or any covering sport will know that there's still misogyny against women who cover it, as in you only like this thing because you get to see Ben in little shorts.
Oh man.
I mean, I only say that as there is a half-naked man in shorts on the wall. I feel like I think I say this on like I say this on like videos and stuff, but then I just got them in the background. I just think that there are women, it's just, like you said, they're never spotlighted, or there's just this belief that they like it for some reason or the other, when you could easily say it about all female shows where you just see men in the crowds. Like, nobody automatically assumes they're there just for the women. So why are they doing it for us? There's been change. I don't know if anyone knows about wrestling, but back in like the 90s or 2000s, it was awful.
Is this like the era of The Rock and stuff?
Yeah. So WWE, the main. I don't watch them anymore. I focus on Japanese promotions. But back then, you'd have women doing bra and panty matches, and while I'm not saying it's got better, because you still have 3-hour shows where women take up 10 minutes, which is awful, really, considering how many women wrestlers there are who are at a top level. But you've always got to look back and say it's come on from where it was, where the actual like term of it was women were the snack break or the bathroom break.
Oh man.
But we're now seeing women main event. They're the star spectacle in so many ways. But I guess like every sport, while there's improvement, there's always so much more that could be. Like, you'll know that, Emmy, from sports you cover. Like football, everything, there's progress, but there needs to be more.
Yeah. Do you see a difference in gender imbalance between kind of US wrestling versus Japanese wrestling? Is it really evident even now?
Yeah, so it's not even just that. It's you look at British wrestling as well. So the British wrestling scene is huge. And I'm always really lucky that whenever I go to wrestling shows, you see so many women. Not just women who are there with their other halves, women who are there for themselves. And I think it's a whole like, it's the country itself. So for example, in America, I hate to be sad, but the more vocal fans are the male ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they seem the most vocal. Whereas in Japan, where they're, as a society, much more polite and calmer, you don't see that imbalance as much. Do you know what I mean? Like in the cheer stuff, it's like in the US shows, you'll see the big men in the front, like screaming and yelling. And I remember it was awful. It was about a few months ago, one of the females was being jeered at for her ring gear. Now, women's ring gear is not done for, it's done for aesthetics, but also a woman's ring gear depends on how she feels comfortable to move. And someone decided that a woman was stood in a certain way, a wrestler, and they wanted to get a very inappropriate shot of her. But in Japan, you wouldn't get that. Now, I'm not going to say it never happens, but I'm just saying that the people are a lot more respectful there. So you don't see like in the crowd, you'll hear men screaming, but you'll hear women screaming as well. Whereas in America, it feels like everything is very male, or American males are just very loud.
When they're louder, it seems like there's more of them as well.
Yeah, and whether it's in the shows or on social media, they're the ones who are making their points forward. Whereas in Japan, it's equal amounts of women and men, and they tend to stay away from drama online. Whereas American men seem to enjoy prodding the bear.
Dang. Maddie, what's your knowledge of wrestling like?
There's not really any of it, babe. I know of The Rock and John Cena, and that's it.
To be fair, that's a lot more than a lot of other people, and that's all I knew, because I didn't get into it until I was 18, which is quite late.
How was that journey for you? How did that happen?
It was my little sister. We used to. Did any of you have E-Network back in the day? No. So it's basically like, it's where the Kardashians used to be on. Like, that was their thing. But there used to be a show. And search it if you can. It's called Total Divas, and it used to follow the female wrestlers. And so, like, I started watching it one day with my sister. Then my sister got into wrestling, and I attended a show that she couldn't make. And whereas she fell out in love with it, I became obsessed. I never liked sport. It was never for me. But seeing a combination of sports, entertainment, badass women, it was just, I mean, that's ironic considering the promotion I cover now is all male. But yeah, I just think it was something different. And what was it, 6 years? No, it'd be longer. 8 years later,
It's quite poetic that your sister got out of it while you got into it, and it was because of her that you got into it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because I know most people who watch wrestling in the UK were like, have watched it since they were younger. And again, it's another one of those things, bringing in the misogyny, is that people never liked that Total Divas show, but they don't realize that how many female fans that show brought in, because it was something that they saw on the channel that they usually watch, and then they found it. So
that's cool. That's like you, Maddie, because you love horses, but actually your sister these days works more with horses than you do.
Oh yeah, I'm so jealous of her. I mean, I've still got like the K-pop journalism photography thing, which I love, but it's one of my dreams to just spend time with horses, to ride horses, and that's what my sister gets to do.
I mean, you still can. It's one of those things that like it's never too late.
True. I mean, yeah, I was thinking, not that 18 is a grown age by any means. That's still a child in my eyes. But that, I mean, like for you to get into something, that's definitely an age, don't you think? Like, like I got into K-pop when I was 14. I don't know how old you guys were when you got into K-pop, but I feel like a lot of your like really nerdy obsessions, because for me, horses was like from birth. You know, I feel like it comes from a childhood or teen place. That's where you have the time and like just the energy to get into things. But as you're an adult, you just chill out. So it's kind of nice that you had just become an adult, but you got into something completely new, completely different than you'd ever like seemingly been interested in before. You know, it's nice.
Well, you're saying the K-pop age thing. Like, my friends were into K-pop from when they were 14. I hated it because I remember it wasn't something I was into at the time. I was into like One Direction at that point. But I remember they used to talk about it. They were massive SHINee fans. They had the backpack. Do you remember there was like a backpack that was like the phase? And I remember me and my friends used to get really annoyed because they would just talk about it and we wouldn't understand it. Funnily enough, we're now K-pop fans, and I don't know if they are, but it wasn't until I was 19 and I'd finished university. No. When did I finish uni? No, I was really late. I was like 21. I'd finished uni. I was working, decided to do a journalism course, and while I was doing that journalism course, that's when I stumbled upon K-pop.
Cool. Who got you into it?
Day 6, which is why I got the parallel with 5 Seconds of Summer. I was like, at uni, I was in like 5 Seconds of Summer, all-time low, state champs, you know, like the pop punk phase. So then I found Day 6, and then it just sort of...
That makes sense.
It wasn't meant to be as deep as it was.
So kind of like, wait, so Day 6 was your very first group. Maddie's, what was yours?
BTS. Not very unique, but...
That is a classic, though.
It is a classic.
I found them in like quite a unique way. I just stumbled across them on YouTube. It was the day their Not Today music video came out, and it was just like very low down on the trending page, and I was just like, oh, I'll just click on this, and I nearly clicked off like in the first few seconds, but I was like, whatever.
Oh, what a different life you would have been living.
Yeah. I do wonder that, like, how different a person would I be if I hadn't found K-pop, you know? It's like the one thing that stuck with me. It's weird to think about. What about you, Emma?
I feel like the only thing that if I hadn't have found K-pop, I might be richer.
Yeah, me too.
I did think that. I was like, would have less merch, more in the bank account.
All those trips abroad for festivals.
But then, you know, would you ever want to exchange those memories?
No. The happiest day of my life was NCT 127's concert in London, and nothing will take that away from me. So I wouldn't want to trade that for the world. Emma, what about you?
Mine was Super Junior.
Oh.
With Sorry Sorry. OG classic. And then soon after it was you know, Wonder Girls No Body. When they toured with the Jonas Brothers
in America.
And I was like, wait, what? They're touring with the because you know it was like when the Joe Bros and like Miley.
Were you a Joe Bro fan? Were you a Joe Bro fan?
I was a Joe Bro fan, and then I was like, oh wait, it's like a girl group from Korea. What? And then blossomed. Wonder Girls and Super Junior.
That's cool.
And then like Big Bang and 21 did Lollipop as well.
You're like veteran K-pop fan.
Oh yeah, ancient.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm middle-aged.
I feel like I'm not a baby, but like in the like.
Are you like a toddler?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a toddler. It's been like, yeah.
How old are you, Sonal? How long have you been?
It's 2019.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, 2019.
5 years.
So yeah, like it feels like ages to me. Like I've seen so many groups called got into so many groups, but again, compared to like you two, it's still quite young, especially compared to Emmy, who's like second gen groups.
K-pop's
Yeah.
come a long way. A long
So you're
way.
like second gen.
I'm third gen.
Maddie's
gen.
third gen. I'm fourth gen.
Oh, how poetic. I love it.
Ah, I do love it. That's so cool. How in what ways do you feel like wrestling and K-pop parallel? As a see, like I talked about this with you know, I'm a big sports fan, as you both know, and I'm often sometimes with mates that know nothing about K-pop but love their sport. I'm like, but actually, like, you being a fan of this sport or this team is actually very similar to a fan of a band or, you know, a K-pop group. It's just, you know, you don't collect photo cards, you play fantasy football or whatever. But actually, like, the passion and the cliqueiness and the shade online, like, all of that, you're all sharing. You're all doing the same things. It's just you don't want to admit it.
I guess it is a bit. The closest thing I can think of is literally, I don't know if anyone's seen the clip of Sakura from the Seraphim. When she was in AKB48, she actually cosplayed as a wrestler. Like, there was like a whole stint, I'll have to send it you. And she also attended the company that I follow. She attended one of the biggest events of the year and was like panned onto in the crowd. So that's like the closest connection. But I guess the link, it's similar to any sports. You've got hardcore fans. All the idols are characters that you're invested in. Because I know some people don't like to believe it, but idols, you'll never know the real people behind the idols. Do you know what I mean? They are what the industry's created. And that's the same with wrestlers. Wrestlers have a persona to portray, whether it's a good guy or a bad guy. And there's, stuff online. There's always going to be drama. There's always going to be things going backwards and forwards. And I think, especially with women's wrestling in Japan, there's always, it's similar to their idol culture. There's one company where it's like, not so much now, but they're known as an idol wrestling company. So at the start of the shows, they'll have, it was created for idols who wanted to wrestle, but they have the wrestlers coming out to sing. But in the past, it was very much like you weren't allowed to date. You weren't allowed to do like anything like that. You had to do a good image. And like there was only a certain age you could do it by.
I feel like we skated over singing wrestlers.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking, did I hear that right?
Yeah, so if you have like time to search it, it's called Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. I don't watch it anymore just because like 2 years ago I had to cut down. I could no longer follow 3 promotions at the same time, so I only watch one now. But it was basically founded with the intention of being for idols. So they would have idol shows and then wrestling matches in the middle. And then it became like its own wrestling promotion, but you still have women there who are, I guess you could say, idols, and they'll come out and sing, and it's very much like more on the Japanese idol side, combining with wrestling rather than just like pure wrestling, which you'll get in other Japanese promotions like Stardom.
That's really cool though. Can you, I don't know why I thought of this, but can you imagine when like 2 idol groups are just having a massive fan war and then they get the idols to fight it out?
Just like if someone knows like how wrestling works, but it's just like the idea that someone's doing it and then they'll just get on the top of the ring and just fly on top of them, and then that just stops the beef. I feel like that. I feel like, but that's what they used to have. You know, like with the Isaacs, they used to have the Serarium.
The what? Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Wait, the what?
You know where they used to be like in like a circle, and they used to like it's not. Yeah, but is it not called a Serarium?
All I know in my heart is that I'd love to see JYP do it in some form. He can fight anybody. It could be, you know, he can fight SM. He can fight, well, not all of SM. He'd probably die. Yeah, he can fight Bang PD. I just feel like, you know, if anyone's like, oh, it's a K-pop war, who should we put in the ring for? I'm like, well, clearly JYP. I'd feel like he'd be up for it. And 2, I feel like he'd willingly go against anybody.
That would be amazing.
Or have them KQ, you know KQ, because everyone's saying how handsome he is. Have like JYP versus the handsome KQ CEO.
Yeah, just do that. Why not?
I definitely started enjoying K-pop more because I used to, when I liked BTS, I enjoyed other K-pop, but I was only really a fan of BTS because I only had like the capacity to obsess about one group, and then I started getting into NCT, and then I lost the capacity to also obsessively follow BTS. So then I was only really standing NCT. And then I went to these festivals and I just saw how amazing all these other groups were. And I was like, scrap that. I need to get into all these artists. And I'm having so much more of a fun time now because of it, you know? Caring about all these other groups. It's really exciting. And it gives you more to enjoy as well than just one like flavor.
Variety is the spice of life, isn't it? So let's get on to the final segment of every single episode. You all know what it is. It's the exchange. There are sound effects in the final thing. I'm not going to imitate them right. Okay,
Ching.
Maddie did it. It's fine.
Sorry.
And usually when it's just me and Maddie, we talk about the things that we've exchanged with each other. So this journey that we're on is Maddie has given me horse breeds and I have given Maddie nerd culture and we're exploring that. But because it is a special guest episode, I don't know why I sound so angry saying that. I have to ask you, Sonal, if there is one thing that you want to share with people that you love, just because you do, not because it makes your career better, not because it keeps you healthy, you just love it. It could be knitting, it could be photos of cats, whales. What would you want to add into the exchange? What do you want our listeners to come away from going, yeah, I might want to try that to bring me some joy?
Just because it links to everything we spoke about. If you can, go on YouTube and search Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling and watch some very talented female wrestlers singing their hearts out to a whole crowd with glow sticks that match the colour of their ring gear.
I actually love that.
I'm searching it right now.
Just singing wrestlers.
I'm trying to think like what you'd actually have to search, because I feel like if you search just...
That looks sick. I'm looking at Google Images, sorry. It looks cool. The fashion as well.
Yeah, their ring gear, it's very cutesy. It's like combining...
Yeah.
So, actually search Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling Up Girls, because that's actually the name of the... Like, that's what they call the group.
You brought a great one to us.
Wow.
A great bit to the exchange. This is cool, Sonal.
They all look like they could flip over a man that's 5'11", I'm not going to lie as well.
If you see the one in pink, she is so strong. Like, she can hold two people by the ankles and swing them around.
Whoa! No, but I love that because, you know, they're all cutesy, but they're like actually really beefy.
Her strength is like, it rivals some of the male wrestlers. Like,
Amazing.
even the male wrestlers will say like she's one of the strongest, pound for pound, like, people in the industry.
She can grab people by the ankles and swing them around.
Yeah, she went viral for it. Like, she took a male, like, she was on a show and she took a male by the ankles and, like, that's what she does normally in the ring, but because it went viral amongst, like, I guess the locals, like people who just didn't know anything about wrestling, and they were like, oh my god, and I was like, I'm used to it, like, she does that all the time. But to other...
I was here before it was cool.
Yeah, but to other people it's like the most shocking thing in the world.
That is amazing though.
But this is so like full circle though, because you were talking about like women into wrestling, and I just love this because, you know, they're showing that you can be an absolute baby girl and also spin a man around by the ankles. Amazing.
Kick butt.
Yeah, like, she literally comes out, her ring entrance is she's saying like LOVE, and then she just like beats someone up in the ring.
This might even be more exciting than K-pop.
This is superhero level shit. Like, that's insane.
No, wrestling is literally like a superhero. You've got the good guys, you've got the bad guys, and it's why I love it so much.
That's the coolest thing ever.
Nothing can top this. Emma, we should just leave because she's given us a cooler thing. And nothing we can say can top it.
That's awesome. Well, as part of the exchange, obviously, we are going to ask you for a couple of your thoughts on our things that we've pulled in the exchange. Sonal, what do you think about horses? Do you think about horses?
You know what I did when I was little? So I used to read stuff like Mallory Towers and things, like the Enid Blyton books, and they were at boarding schools, and they'd always mention horses and things. And I always wanted to ride, but like it's not a thing that you can do here in Manchester, or at least not for like, you know what I mean? I feel like in Manchester, the time you can do it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that, like, I always say this, like, I'd always love to, but it's a dream. It's a dream. Maybe one day.
Maddie and I have discussed doing like a trip to ride horses.
Yeah.
We genuinely have.
That'd
Yeah.
be so cool. That'd actually be
But there's
amazing.
definitely way better places to have like a horsey day out in the north
Mm.
than the south, because
Mm.
I mentioned the Cumbria one I did when I ended up galloping on a beach surrounded by mountains. That was like one of my core memories.
That's like a movie.
The thing that Maddie's current mission is Star Wars. What are your thoughts on Star Wars, Sonal? Do you have thoughts on Star Wars?
Never been something for me. I'm gonna be honest. I've dabbled.
Really? Have you watched any of it?
Yeah, I feel like I've dabbled in some of them as I've grown up, but like none of them have struck me. Because Emmy, you know, I'm like a massive Harry Potter fan.
You are, yeah, you are.
Yeah, but nothing is. Yes. Yeah, it seems like it. I just like even Star Wars, Star Trek. None of that was really anything for me.
So you're more fantasy than sci-fi.
A lot of my family are as well, and I tried, and it's just like you know what, I've been to Disney and the rides are great. Love the rides.
Like the
Just
rides,
film.
not the show.
Yeah, just the films themselves. I'll watch them, but I'm not like as invested in them as other stuff.
Well, on that beautiful note, as always, we'd like to leave our listeners with a farewell message. It can genuinely be whatever you like. It can be a message of hope. It can be advice. So, Sonal, as our special guest, would you like to start with what is your message your one-line message you want our listeners to go with?
See, that's even more pressure than when you were asking me what is failure. If you're ever feeling sad, watching singing wrestling is the only way to brighten your day.
The only way.
Hey, Maddie, what you got?
Oh, me. Beef up. Just that. That's because of the girls. That's because of V. That's because of everyone.
So just like put on more muscle.
Meaty arms, yeah.
What if like
I
what if they don't like put on a lot of muscle in their arms? Like for me, it mostly goes to my legs. Then what? Is that okay too?
No.
You know what? Beefy legs are good because wrestlers need beefy legs as well.
True.
You know, sturdy base.
So just beef up in any way you can.
Yeah. Get meatier.
Okay. I'll leave you with clean your room before the mess piles up.
Didn't you say that before?
That's actually a good one.
No, my other one was get air conditioning.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in the north, you need heating more than
I
anything.
feel like you're always telling people how to tidy their house.
Yeah, no, I haven't, because of all the shoots, I just haven't cleaned my room and it looks like a cupboard's thrown up in it. It's quite sad. On that beautiful note, thank you very much, listeners. Thank you very much to Sonal Lad. Round of applause, everybody. Woo! Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Bye.